Leap is one of the most frightening thing that could happen to a pianist during a performance.
So what about Prokofiev 2?
I mean, I haven't played it in a year, but...
Ever since winning the Cliburn in 2009, Haochen Zhang has solidified his place as one of the powerhouses of modern piano playing. A few months ago, he joined us over at Tonebase Headquarters to share some insights into how he tackles the hardest leaps in all of the piano repertoire. And this is just a small sample of everything that's available over on Tonebase Premium. Over there, we get a rare glimpse into Haochen's philosophy at the piano as he guides us through these incredible works. This is absolutely the time to get into Tonebase Premium. You'll get 50% off the usual price, an incredible deal which gives you access to hours of content from the world's greatest pianists. Be sure to check the link in the description below to get access to the Black Friday sale before it's too late. Now back to Haochen.
Leap is one of the most frightening thing that could happen to a pianist during a performance, especially when it's happening in the beginning of a piece, like in the Hammerklavier, which I think could be very frightening. So years ago, before I was studying the Hammerklavier, I watched a YouTube video of Andreas Schiff talking, where he was basically discussing the Hammerklavier Sonata, and in the beginning, how a lot of people played this way. He used the word disgusting to describe this kind of method, because the leap itself is so important, not just musically but technically, because only when the performer himself or herself feels the hugeness of that leap can they understand this kind of crazy momentum that is so crucial for the beginning of Hammerklavier Sonata. Sort of wakes up the performer's not just spirit but the body as well. And for years I thought this must have been the most difficult thing for a pianist on stage, to start off the concert with Hammerklavier. And indeed, I think in my knowledge most pianists actually program the Hammerklavier in the second half, or at least with a lot of music already being played before they started that huge leap of the first movement. But when I actually once did start the whole concert with Hammerklavier, and I found that having played it and performed that way myself, it's actually not as difficult as I think. You just... And the trick, I think, for me is that when you practice it, you practice with attention to every note in that chord. But when you're in performance, you have to have the confidence that your muscle already memorizes the chord and the leap. So all you have to do is, instead of locating the whole chord in your eyes, just locate one note. You know, you pick on one note, maybe that for me would be the thumb. So all you have to deal with that, and your palm and your fingers can take up the rest. All I did was sort of with my eyes locating on that note. And that's all my focus, and I don't care about the rest. And that, I think, does the trick for me. One other trick is you can practice with your eyes closed. If I were to close my eyes, if I can do that, then when I open my eyes, it makes the things even easier. But don't expect that you practice with your eyes closed and then you're done. And then mission accomplished, you can immediately go on stage and play with your eyes open. Because, of course, the visual sense of the distance is a little bit different from the physical sense of the distance. So sometimes you would need to do is you practice with the eyes closed and then you open it, and you need to get accustomed for a couple more times with eyes open. But what it does is that it releases you off from the over dependence on your eyes. Because oftentimes when we're leaping, we're just as if our eyes are taking care of everything. But of course, we know that in a very tense and busy situation, your eyes cannot follow everywhere you go. So you have to establish this kind of independence of just your hand feeling the distance and executing it by itself. And then with the added visual aid, then everything will become even more secure. So that's why I recommend sometimes playing with your eyes closed. And you can start off really slowly and even do reverse motion, just so you get more sides taken care of and before you go on to the next step with practicing with your eyes open. Yeah, so for the Liszt Sonata, one thing is that since this is the same rhythm, basically, so I would say that in the first figuration, when you have, don't make it sound too fast. Because if it's too fast, you go slow, people will have the impression that it's because you cannot play that fast. But then if you have to play with the same rhythm, then you're putting yourself, although I might be lucky that I got that right, but be a bit more contained with your passion and intensity in the first one. And I would, following what I said about the Hammerklavier, to not think about the whole 4 notes moving together to the right spot, but just focusing on one note. For me, it's the thumb on the right hand. I think the small finger would follow the course, so to speak. And the thumb, to me, is more important. And it's also easier to locate because your vision is right there with this register. With the little finger, because of the fact that it's higher in register, you might get your visions blocked a little bit by your palm. So that's why I pick the thumb, and all you have to do is this. That's your only focus. A laser focus, and I don't think you can get it wrong. The other thing is also not to apply the force twice. So thinking that it's a double attack, it's just a single attack. So it's within one goal, one gesture. In your mind, this is the only thing that matters, and really you're just playing one note. But of course, you're not, because your muscle memory knows all the notes, and they will play automatically in a concert. And that way, you have lesser task on your brain, and your brain would then add less stress on your muscle, which already knows the technique so well. So that would be my advice. And by the way, I'm also teaching a lesson on the Liszt Sonata where I'll be talking about the interpretation and other technical details. And for people who are interested, please check out the video.
So what about Prokofiev 2?
And you meant the finale, right?
Yeah, the leaps in the finale. Those are insane.
Yeah, it is one of the most difficult ones. I think here, I haven't played it in a year, but that's actually okay. That's manageable. But it's it gets difficult when it's and later on. When it gets here, it can be very demanding. I don't know. This is a slightly different category than with the Liszt and the Hammerklavier. I would say still the principle of locating a certain note is important. For instance, if you maybe for me it's still that note is very important because there are some other notes, even if you miss, it's not that important musically. There are some notes that are more crucial to the harmonic texture than the other notes. So focus on those notes. And for me, it will be that jump. And the other thing I would say is practice with your hands separate. Yeah, so because because a lot of the difficulty comes from the juxtaposition and sort of the disjunct kind of combination between the hands, as if each hand is disturbing what the other hand was doing. So while this hand is jumping from to here and the left hand is playing this note, yeah, and when the left hand is doing this, the right hand is on its way, and it could mess up with your brain if it's very fast. So if you do with your left hand, you can do it just by your the left hand alone, or you can do it with your right hand sort of fake playing, and the positioning is there for your hand to kind of simulate what it was like if two hands are both actually playing at the same time. And then afterwards, I think the principle of playing with your eyes closed also is always a worthy exercise.
You're gonna give it a try?
Yeah, if I yeah, I think I can sort of manage a little bit. I think that is always a good thing to do. And the one last piece of advice is don't play these things too matter of fact. In other words, don't play every note to the bottom of the key. I think it's counterproductive if you're trying to. I think some like the second note of this. I'm sort of almost not paying attention to the second note. For me, it's almost like a single note, but I'm just make the last note sort of bounce up a little bit. So. And it's, if you examine closely, I might not even hit to the bottom of the key, but I'm only halfway there. In a fast speed, it's drastically helpful. Always try to incorporate the inherent bounciness of the piano keys themselves. So it bounce upward, and don't kill that upward kind of lift it gives you. It's like when you play the basketball. I mean, the ground does half of the work when it bounces the ball back to you. A lot of times, all you do is do a slight push from the reaction that the ground gives the ball. So you're almost trying to feel as if you're not only exerting forces, but there is also a bouncing kind of reaction from the key. And I think that mentality would help you in these very fast but also sort of light leaps to not apply any redundant unnecessary forces that could actually slow down or compromise what you're trying to achieve, which is get the leaps right.
With the Black Friday sale coming up, this is absolutely the time to get into Tonebase Premium. If you're an absolute beginner, there's plenty of videos catered to you. If you're an advanced pianist, then there's tons of really in-depth lessons on some of the real powerhouses of the repertoire. And if you're just somebody who really likes to listen to great artists talking about music, there is plenty of content for you there as well. Not to mention the wonderful community aspect to Tonebase Premium. There's a discussion forum as well as special community events, both online and in person, that you can get involved with. Believe me, you'll thank yourself later once your octaves start sounding less like car crashes and more like beautiful waterfalls.